This is Bill McMinn from Makeable Bible Church, and this is the Way to Go podcast, where we talk about faith, family, and daily life, putting the Bible into practical, everyday terms. Welcome to the Way to Go podcast. Bill McMinn along with Eric Barfell, talking about the Ten Commandments on this podcast, because that would just be a good, solid, foundational aspect. Moses goes up, he meets with God, God gives him the commandments. And one of the things actually I was thinking about when Moses went up there to meet with God, there's specifications, 10 commandments. There are things about the temple, how it's going to be built, who's going to do it. And I'm 40 days. Boy, I'd have to be taking some notes.
Yeah, right.
I was thinking about how smart was this guy to go up there and hear all these things, remember all these things, right?
And actually, go back down and tell all the people what he just said. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
And this, because it's not just like the Ten Commandments is chapter 20. There's lots of stuff that went on in that conversation between God and Moses. Yeah. But it was inscribed in stone. Like there were stone tablets he made, he cut out.
The finger of God inscribed it on stone.
He put it in there, so it was pretty awesome, actually. So God spoke all these words. He said, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. And it was so fresh because he had just done that. And they had crossed the Red Sea. And now they're kind of coming, like one of the first things they're coming to this Mount Sinai. They're going to get the law. And you shall have no other gods before me. And that's the first one. No other gods.
What does he go down and see?
Yeah. They're worshiping.
Messed up.
Yeah, they're worshiping a calf.
Yeah, a giant gold statue.
Joshua, I hear the sound of victory in the camp. He goes, that's not the sound of victory. That's the sound of defeat. That's what that sound is. So yeah, it was an amazing story, but you're not supposed to have any other gods. There's only one. The Lord your God is one. And one of the things that we believe is there is only one God that we're going to go. And we don't really, some people are getting pretty close to worshiping stars at this point, and tarot cards and guidance and a whole host of other things. For the most part, I would say if something is going to become a god, it would be your own pride, money, sex,
food,
you name it, food. I mean, there can be anything that can become more important to you than God. So whatever's displacing God is a god, right?
Yeah, no, we did a study a few years ago called Gods at War, and it was this exactly, and it's not what's the word, limited to just the 5-6 things that he listed, but it was exactly that: food, money, sex, power, things like that.
Greed.
Yeah. It is interesting what can consume our thoughts and our minds, and what captivates our drive and our desire. What do we want? What are we going after? Well, hey, you might want to analyze this. Might be kind of a god. Well,
and you don't want to fool yourself, because you're not fooling God.
Right,
he's going to know if you're not. He also says, you shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is under heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. Which is going to be astounding, because that's going to get repeated after that golden calf incident, which is going to happen in a matter of days from here. And I think about that as like God's knowing already what these people are up to. They're going to be worshiping false gods. And I like this command because it just makes it simple. Don't carve anything and worship it.
Yeah.
That's simple.
It's simple, but is it easy?
I'm not talking about having other gods like idolatry, like in our hearts, having another god, but I'm thinking of what they were doing in that day when they had shrines, Asherah poles, all the stuff.
Sure.
You just shouldn't be worshiping that. Like, so the Baals, they would always work this way. Like they would have these like little gods that they would make, and they would craft, whether it's wood or stone or gold or silver. And then they would start worshiping that. And he's like, if you just not do that,
right.
I mean, that would be part of not falling into idol worship. Don't have an idol. Even when you think of David's day, I believe it was Samuel's day, and the Ark of the Covenant got captured by the Philistines, and they had this false god Dagon, and they had a temple, and they put the Ark, and then the god is fallen down face first to the Ark of the Covenant. The hands break off it. Then they're starting to get, I think it was like a mouse infestation and tumors and all kinds of bad things were happening because they had this Ark, and their god was knocked straight down on the ground. But they shouldn't have had an idol. They shouldn't have had. You look at the Buddhas. You look at all these other kind of things in other religions. He's not us.
Yeah.
You see a cross, like there'll be a cross in the churches, but you're not going to have any graven image of the Lord.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, because you do see a lot of those like little Buddha statues and stuff.
Right.
People's gardens.
Yep.
Garden gnomes.
Yeah, gnomes I wouldn't worry about too much.
Just
A
kidding.
little else, but yeah, because there are a lot of statues, but not gods. I mean, you shouldn't have something that you're going to worship and you're going to be looking to as apart from the Lord. Now, there's been debate over time. Well, what about a picture of Jesus Christ? And then sometimes I'd even be worried about that. You know, should I? But Christ did come here in the flesh. I don't mind having a painting of Christ, or when they put one up of Jesus. I've never been against that, because you think about how much art, religious art there is, even if you go into the Cleveland Museum of Art.
Oh, it's very historical.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the Byzantine period and whatnot. There's the Last Supper of Christ. Like, I don't mind that kind of stuff, and I don't think he's saying that. But for us at our home, there shouldn't be any little idols that we carved out, because God is spirit, and we don't know what he looks like. And you can't capture him.
Sure.
So that should not be something we would worship.
Yeah, interesting.
Then he goes on, he says that you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain.
Ooh. Whenever people are like, oh my God, I'm like, oh my what?
Right.
And sometimes they're like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Like,
Right.
What'd you say? Some people like catch it right away. Sometimes I'll do that with students. I'm like, what'd you just say? They're like, oh my goodness. I'm like, that's what I thought you said.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you should. OMG
Yeah.
is one I don't use personally, even the abbreviation.
Right.
Gosh, maybe I'll say, I don't even know if I do. I guess you guys would have to tell me. But yeah, to use God's name or Jesus Christ as a swear word.
No, geez.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, I don't believe in that. I was interested in Jacob and Esau in that story, when Jacob goes and steals the blessing. How did you find it so quickly, my son? God bless me in my heart. And I'm thinking, you bringing God into this lie. You're lying.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Telling God about it. You're bringing God into it. And I thought, that's got to be a way of taking the Lord's name in vain, when I'm like, I swear by God that I did. You're not even telling the truth. Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Huh. Yeah, definitely. No, I've always, in my mind, whenever I've read that verse, even from when I was a kid, I always like pictured like the name of God, like on a wall or something. People like vandalize it, like graffiti it, and just like tarnish it. Kind of like, no, like that's always been like the visual in my head. This like idea of like vandalism.
I think that God's name should have respect, and they had so much respect they wouldn't even say his name. They wouldn't even say Yahweh. They would say the name. That's what they called Hashem, the name. To us, I mean, we use the name God, and we'll just say it. We'll say, dear Heavenly Father. You know, we're not afraid to say that, but it shouldn't be used in an empty way. So I think sometimes, am I joking around? Like, I don't want to ever say anything sacrilegious.
Right.
You know, or joking or being funny when I'm praying. Like, it's like, I know God appreciates a sense of humor. I'm sure is like anyone else, but there's still this reverence, you know, that we keep for the Lord and using his name. And I think one way maybe you could take the Lord's name in vain too would be, you're out there talking God, but you're not walking God. You're gonna be up in front of people talking God. Are you walking God?
Yeah, right.
Because if you're not, aren't you taking his name in vain? And just, you know, the name of God's on your lips.
Yeah.
But it's not in the trenches. So
it's a good point.
Be careful how you live, right?
It's a good point.
And then we've got to also remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work. You or your son or your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, your livestock, or your sojourner within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. I've really taken that seriously. Just 1 out of 7 rest. The Sabbath would be Saturday. That's the seventh day. For us, in the way the weekends work, kind of Sunday is more like our day of rest.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't weed, I don't mow, I don't paint, I don't do any kind of physical work at all on that day. Even when we were renovating our house, I would tell the guys who are working on it, no one's working here on Saturday. Sunday, I mean. And that became a nice thing because then that was the day I would spend with my family.
Yeah.
Because I'm such a workaholic. If I didn't have that
Yeah.
boundary that God gave me to just, hey, this is a different day. This is not a day to just go doing anything. It really led me, I'm in church, of course, as a pastor, but then I'm spending time with my family later in the day instead of going out mowing, weed eating, and trying to catch up on chores. So that helped me a lot.
That's a really good boundary to have.
Right.
And for people who are like just signing up their kids for every sport, they're like, oh yeah, there's games on Sunday, there's practice on Sunday. It's like, when do you guys take a break? When do you guys have family time?
Right.
Like even you guys, and I'm not talking about coming here and being with me. I'm talking about you guys together. When do you have that time set aside, if ever? Ooh, I mean, you gotta. It's a 10 Commandment. I think you should probably have a Sabbath rest.
Well, look at Chick-fil-A to this day.
Yeah.
They're not open on Sunday, and they're one of the top fast food places in the world. I mean, they're so successful, and yet they take one day off and prove that, hey, you can get it done.
Hobby Lobby too? Do they have that day off? I know they're Christian.
That's possible. I'm not sure about them. I know Chick-fil-A is the big one that really actually does that.
Yeah, definitely.
And it used to be in with the Jewish stores in the mall back in the Philadelphia area, they would be closed on Saturday. Like they wouldn't be open. They took their 1 and 7 off. But I grew up where I did grow up in the mountains of northeastern Pennsylvania. I remember even in my college days being in Hazleton, Pennsylvania, around where my dad and mom were living. There was no one mowing. There's no one hanging clothes on the clothesline. There's no one. They did not work on Sunday. Like it was like the whole community was so influenced by the Bible that everyone knew, no, this is not a day for the lawnmowers to be mowing. This is not a day for the And they all took it really seriously, and you saw it migrate and change. Like they used to have this thing called the blue laws, probably before your day, and they would be days where there were certain towns like nothing be open on a Sunday. Of course, your hospitals and whatnot, but the blue laws, you did not. Even alcohol for a long time in Ohio, I don't know if it's still this way or not, you couldn't sell alcohol on Sunday.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that, and or at least places would like close early on Sunday or like open late or something. I always like to see that kind of thing, and as the days go on, and it's like Christmas Day, it's like normal hours.
What?
Yeah, it saddens me, honestly. It's like, well,
it used to be for Wednesday night, a lot of things wouldn't go on the schools on Wednesday night because they knew so many kids were involved in church and youth groups and stuff. So then Wednesday night was special. And then Sunday, when I was a head coach, I don't think any team practiced on Sunday. Some teams would have to come in and watch film like football, and maybe there'd be some of the junior varsity sports that would play on Saturday. Once in a while, we'd have a Saturday soccer game. Typically, no. I mean, it's not Saturday, but definitely not Sunday. Now today, it seems like they're blowing through that guardrail, like that boundary, and it's not really.
Yeah, times have changed, unfortunately.
It is. Honor your father and your mother, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. First command with the promises right there. Honor mom and dad. And what do you think about that? Honoring your parents.
I think it's important.
But I mean, how would you practice it though?
Respect, obey, listen to.
Right. I'm sure you always did your whole life.
Acknowledge, maybe.
Oh, dude, I'll tell you, I know I was not following that commandment 100% when I was a kid. Like, I know, to be honest, like, I did not. And my dad was on my case about chewing gum, and he wasn't around. A lot of times I was chewing gum.
Yeah.
I wasn't perfect, that's for sure. My mom, she didn't have a great handle on us, to be honest. But then you get older, you grow up, and you start to think about it more, and you're like, no, like those are my parents, and it's not that they're trying to even make you obey because you're an adult now, but just the respect. When my dad was dying of cancer, the brothers got together to take care of him, and so that I would try to go 2 days every other week because I was out in Ohio, he was in Eastern PA, but I try to go back. I'm glad I did, until his dying day. Like I would just go take my turn, relieve my one bro. And so he could go do other things because he was there like 24/7. And then my other younger brother would come in and help a lot. And we just did it, to show love to my dad. I thought it was super, super important. My mom, I mean, I loved her. I would do anything for her. I wasn't a big keep in touch person. Like I never was, not ever, but man, I loved her, and she would text us every day. She would send a text to all the nephews, all her grandkids, her kids.
Nice.
So it was nice. Yeah. So I would always try to over time, make sure I was responding to that. You know, got out to see her before she died. I mean, I saw her, told her I loved her the night she died. And Jerry was like, should we go? Like, should we just go to the hotel room, or, you know, just, should we stop by the house? Because by the time we got there, it was like 8:30, 9 o'clock. I said, no. I said, I want to see her tonight. You know, let her know that we got in. Hey, Mom. And she was real tired. Hey, love you and stuff. Next morning, my brother calls me. He's like, she was gone. I'm like, man, I'm glad I.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whew, that was, I can't tell you what kind of comfort that was, that I had a chance to tell her that one more time.
Yeah.
If I went back to that hotel room and didn't see her that night, I'd have been kicking myself for the rest of my life. You know? So, but I mean, those little things really. It's just respect. It's helping them out. It's making sure they're okay. It's keeping in touch. It's,
absolutely.
As an adult, I'm thinking as an adult. Obviously, as a child or a teen,
when we were kids, man. Woo! You better run. You better not run. You better do what Mom says the first time, because we weren't afraid of like cops and stuff.
Right.
We were afraid of Mom.
Right.
We were afraid of Mom. And like it didn't matter what the law was, dude. It wasn't going to compare to the fury of Mom.
Right.
And I mean, Dad, they were on the same page too. Dad wasn't as like vocal about it necessarily. I remember we were wreaking havoc with we weren't wreaking havoc. We were hanging out with the neighborhood kids one time, and the one kid was like, "Do you guys always do what your mom says?" And me and my brother look at each other, and I was like, I do, yeah.
Right.
He doesn't, but compared to you guys, yeah, it would probably seem like all the time, because
right.
I mean, yeah, it was just a lot different. It was like, no, you're gonna do what Mom says, and you're gonna do it. I learned. I'm doing it the first time.
Right.
It didn't work out for me the other ways.
Yeah, exactly. I was saying honoring my dad when I was in high school was I did not give him a hard time. Like, I only back talked to him twice. He made it memorable both times. I just, if I knew he needed wood to heat the house in by the, like, stacked up by, I would just do it without him asking me and make sure it got done. We tried to help my dad when he was real tired and in college, and we were in high school, maybe starting to head to college ourselves. He worked at a gas station. It was full serve. Some of the pumps, we would go just tell him, hey, sit down, rest, we'll take care of it.
Yeah.
We gave, I mean, when I was a junior, I gave 70% of everything that I made to my dad. As a senior, I gave 60% of everything that I made to my dad to pay bills. So we worked, I mean, I was working every day after school.
Yeah.
And Thursday nights, Friday night later, Saturday. I mean, I was just, you had to. I mean, it's just that, to me, that was all honoring parents. It was like we worked together. We helped cut wood. I didn't give my dad a hard time. I didn't listen on every little, like I said, if I wanted to chew gum or listen to what I wanted to listen to, you know, I was kind of free with that part of it. But on the other hand, we were always in church together. We were, you know, backing him. We'd be there on work days. We just.
No, we always had to help my dad work the land, run the mower, and we, you know, dump the bag of grass into the trash can or the wheelbarrow, haul it out to the woods, and all the, man, it was just like, we always joke he was like a slave driver. It's like, all right, Saturday morning, here we go. We got to strip the bed, got to do the laundry, got to clean the whole house, top to bottom. He was like, man, we loved having snow days because it was a day off of school where we didn't have to clean the house. Right. It was like the best thing ever.
Oh, I bet it felt great.
And that's what Saturday was like known for. It was like, oh, we got to clean this whole house. We're going to get yelled at all morning long. It's just like,
you grew up in a different house than my kids grew up in.
Right.
They slept
like,
in whenever they wanted.
Goodness.
I'd finally say, hey, I'm not going to just work by myself. I'd only be going out at like 9:30. I expect them to come work with me when I did. But all the warm weather, we're always yard sailing.
Yeah. Oh,
so they could go yard sailing. I always take them out for treats or lunch. You know, we were together. So it was a whole different thing. But we all, through the week, we did our work.
Yeah.
So they would still do chores. They didn't get out of that, I can tell you. But I think just honoring your parents, there's so many ways you can do that. I think the obedience, not having a bad attitude. And sometimes, like, you never will understand your parents until you are a parent. When you have kids of your own, you truly understand your parents so much better, because then you're like, oh, that's why they said that. Oh, that's why he was frustrated. That's why he was so frustrated with it. And it just like all the things he said and did, or she said and did, made so much more sense when you got your own kids running around. You see what they do to you. Then you're like, oh, and then you didn't realize like how hard it was to come home and raise kids after working hard all day. Like, you don't even think about that. Like, you're a kid, you're just going to school, you're coming in and all this stuff. Like, you don't realize like what it took for them to spend time with you or to be there, what they were going through, the financial pressures they were under, sometimes marital pressures they were under, all that kind of stuff. You have no clue. then you go through it, and then you're like, oh, okay, now I understand that why he was so upset at us that day. And I thought it was actually a good thing. I know we only got through half of this, but we'll have to do another half on another day. But to me, it's so important. I mean, I love the 10 Commandments, and the first 4 are about God, and the last 6 are about people. And I've always seen the 10 Commandments as, well, for one, they're statements of reality. It's not just a commandment. This is life as it really works. Yeah. Life works best if this is the way that we live. And it's also about how to get along in your community. That can't be stealing, can't be killing you, I can't be lying to you, I can't be coveting your stuff, can't be cheating on my wife. There's not going to be any peace or harmony that way. So it's like, how to keep in harmony with the people around you.
How to make order out of the chaos.
Yeah, really. So I think 10 Commandments is just a beautiful thing. But I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talking through some of these things. And
absolutely.
Good reminders of growing up, good reminders of being a parent, and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, hope that you've enjoyed the show and gotten something out of it. We'll pray that you have an awesome and a blessed week.